Hi there guys, Quayle here, hope everyone's doing well. Today I am checking out the fantastic Steelpark boost pedal from Black Country Customs. So as I mentioned, today we are checking out the Steelpark by Black Country Customs, and this is it right here. It's a great looking pedal. As part of the Black Country Customs range, it's got this very nice boutique look. These guys are all handmade in the UK, made with love, made with care. The guys really take a lot of time to kind of get the tonal qualities of these pedals right. And I know the guys personally, actually, and I know how much they care about good tone. So it's good to see this much love going into a product. Now, this particular pedal is, as I mentioned, a boost pedal, but it's much more than your standard kind of clean, transparent boost that we all know and love. This does a lot more. It's kind of what I would call a Swiss Army knife of tone, and I'll try and explain why. I've used this in so many different scenarios. It's the one that is my favorite within the range, and I've used it to boost a clean amp. I've used it to make solos louder. I've used it to push my One Dual Fusion overdrive pedal. I'm currently using it for this video to push this Marshall Silver Jubilee over here. You could use it to push any amp that's got a drive channel into saturation. There are a ton of different uses for it. It's really, really versatile and a fantastic tonal tool. Now, as I mentioned, with the Black Country Customs range, you get this lovely handmade design. We've got this metal chassis with this nice graphics on. We've got silent switching going on here, all analog design. There's no modeling or digital conversion going on here, so there's no latency. And also, one nice thing about the Steelpark, before we get into the details of its features, is that it works really well as a buffer as well. So if you're using, say, a volume pedal and a boost together, which is quite a common combination, or if you're using long pedal chains and you're not using some kind of switching system, like a Gig Rig G2 or a Boss ESA, any of those kind of things, this is going to work great at the front of your signal chain in combination with that volume pedal, so that you don't lose any tone when you use the volume pedal, and you don't lose any tone if you've got long runs of cables with lots of pedals as well. So it's a great thing in that regard as well. Now, looking at the pedal itself, very simple layout. As with all the Black Country Customs pedals, we've got these 4 different controls and then a switch in the middle, a 3-way switch. They all have the same control layout, but obviously the controls differ in terms of their function from pedal to pedal. So this one has a volume control and a drive control. That's going to give you up to 30 dB of boost, which is amazing. You can really push any amp or any kind of gainy amp into from crunch up to kind of high saturated gain territory with that, and I'll demonstrate that later. The drive actually has multiple functions as well. So as you increase that drive, it's acting a little bit like tube saturation would if you were going to apply that to like a mix, for instance. It's going to give you warmth and it's going to give you compression so that your sound just becomes warmer and easier to play. So if you're using that with a clean amp, say something a little bit spiky and mid-scoop, like a Fender Twin, for instance, it's going to give you a much easier sound to play with because it's going to compress, but also push the front end of the amp in a nice way. So it works great for that. And again, you'll hear that in combination with the volume control to give us that full 30 dB of boost. Now, where it gets really cool as well is we've got a bass and a treble control on here, and that's going to allow us to really tailor the low and the high end in quite either aggressive or subtle ways with this pedal. Now, they've really thought about this in quite an interesting way in that these 2 EQ controls are actually notched at the 5 position. So you can see these little triangles, they tell us where we're actually set. So the little triangles here are set to 5 now and they're notched. And this means that at 5, we're neither boosting nor cutting. So not only can you add bass and treble, but you can cut it as well. And that means this can be tailored to function more like a treble booster, for instance, if we cut out the bass and increase the treble. If you've got an amp that's very kind of low end heavy, kind of woofy and muddy, you can remove some of that bass and actually crank the amp and push the front end of it without sacrificing the tightness of your tone, which is really, really useful. Say an AC30, sorry, or an AC15, you can actually remove some of that low end and it gets very useful, especially if you've got like 6V6 or EL84 tubes, which tend to have a slightly muddier low end. You can do that, which is great. Now, I'll bring those back to 5 for now. These work great in combination with the switch in the middle. So the switch is going to give us 3 different types of boost. In the middle position, we get this pink LED, get a little bit noisy now. And that's because I'm pushing the front end of this Marshall Silver Jubilee. So with the pink LED on, we're getting a clean, transparent boost. No kind of boost in any particular area. It's all nicely, cleanly, transparently boosted. In the upper position, we're getting upper mid boost, which is going to add more saturation in that upper mids frequency, which just basically in this scenario gives us more gain and a kind of mid nasally kind of sound, which is great for solos. And in the blue lower position, we get a low mids boost. So very versatile, lots of different functionality, lots of EQ shaping, which is why, again, I call this a Swiss Army knife. It works great in the loop of an amp or in the front of an amp or in the front of a pedal board as well. So my setup today, I've got my Ibanez TQM1. I'm going to use the bridge pickup to start with. And as I mentioned, I'm running into this Marshall Silver Jubilee. And the reason I've picked that is because it's a sound like a JCM 800 style sound that a lot of people are very familiar with. And it's the kind of amp that a lot of people will boost into higher saturation territory. With this particular amplifier, when you crank the gain, it gets a little bit muddy. It sounds great, but it's a little bit muddy. And I want something a little bit tighter, a little bit more like in that kind of saturated singing lead tone without the mud on the low end. And this is going to really allow me to do that without cranking the gain on the amplifier. It also allows me to have more of a kind of 3-channel setup where I can have clean, I can also have a crunch, and I can have a saturated lead tone just using the pedal, which is great. That is then running into this Universal Audio aux, and the Universal Audio aux is running a 4x12 cab, simulation with vintage 30s in, which is very similar to the cab I have down here as well. And then that has got a Royer R121 and an SM57 mic'd up, and the SM57 is off axis. Now, without the pedal engaged on the bridge pickup and with the gain about 1/4 of the way up on the amp, we get this. So it's kind of a crunchy, pick sensitive, or pick dynamic kind of sound. So if I pick lightly, it kind of is just breaking up lightly. Now what I'm going to do is, as you can see here, hopefully you can see the controls because it's a very shiny pedal. I've got the drive and the volume set to around 8. These two controls are notched in the middle, so they're not doing anything. And then we've got the clean boost, and we go from this fantastic, absolutely killer. So it's doing a great job of boosting this amplifier, but not adding any kind of low-end mud, if you like. Really, really useful. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just want to pull the drive out, crank the volume, and just let you hear what the volume is doing. I'm going to leave the drive on about 1 because you need a little bit of drive with this pedal to make the boost work really well. Here's the dry signal again. Now, as we add more drive in, we're just going to boost that saturation further and further. So let's crank everything to 10, and now we get this. Totally, totally killer. And again, if I kill the pedal, now, if we engage the EQ controls, if I pull out the bass and bring in more of the treble, you're going to hear some noise, obviously, but now it's super tight on the low end. Totally and utterly insane. It's so, so good. So let's bring those controls down to a slightly more, or up in this case, to a slightly more sensible value. and we'll have a listen to the different voices here. Now these can be more prominent depending on the scenario that you're dealing with. So in this case, running into the Marshall, it's got a very distinct kind of tonal characteristic anyway. So you'll hear a bit of a difference, but you'll hear more of a difference into a clean amp or into a pedal, which I'll demonstrate shortly. So at the moment we're in the clean boost setting. So we've got let's notch up to the high mid boost. Now you can hear it's just saturating those upper mids slightly more, and it's giving us a more nasal, actually singing, sustaining quality. Now if we go down to the lower mids here, just adding a little bit more thump in the low end. So in terms of running it into an amp like this, which has already got a fair chunk of gain on board, you can totally saturate things, but very much shape the kind of EQ or tonal balance that you require. So what I'm going to do now is just run into the clean channel of this amp and let you hear that boosted, and also let you hear the dual fusion, which is a drive pedal boosted with this in the front end of that as well. So I'm now on the clean channel of the amp. It's not the best clean tone you'll ever hear with the Silver Jubilee. It's not bad at all, but it's not a great sort of pedal platform. But what this is going to do, the Steelpark, is allow us to get a better clean tone out of this particular amplifier. So at the moment on the neck pickup here, we've got this. It's fine, but not that inspiring. So I've got the EQ set flat here. I'm on the clean boost, not the mid boosts. Derive is set fairly low, the volume is set fairly high. Now we've added a little bit more grit here, but it's much more inspiring to play. There's a little bit more compression kicking in and everything just feels and sounds a lot nicer. Now what we can do here is hear a bit more of the drive of the pedal. So if we increase the drive, bring the volume back on the clean boost, remember. Again, a little bit anemic without it. Engage the pedal. Starts to sound really, really great. Now, where this gets super interesting is if we engage the mid boosts as well, because if we do this, we start to get a little bit more drive and we can really push the front of the amp into more crunch territory. Sounds absolutely great, it's really killer. Now if we go down to the bottom here, Now, of course, we can again engage the EQ here, pull out some of the low ends, increase some of the high end, and slightly tighten up that low. So it really works well in front of a clean amp or an edgy breakup amp to push you into crunch territory as well, or fatten up, kind of an anemic clean tone. So the last thing I want to show you is how this functions in front of a drive pedal. So we're going to stick it in front of my dual fusion pedal and have a listen to how that sounds. Okay, so I've got the One Dual Fusion running into the front end of the Silver Jubilee, and the gain is set about just over halfway up on channel 1, which is the vintage channel, and that gives us this. So if we engage the pedal, you can see the settings I've got. Volume is fairly cranked, drive is fairly cranked, and then the two EQ controls will leave fairly notched in the middle, but with a boost slightly on the treble side, and we're on the clean boost. So as I say, a total powerhouse of a pedal in terms of sonic shaping, no matter whether you're going to the front of an amp, whether you're going into the front of a pedal, whether you're boosting a clean amp, whether you're boosting a solo, it really does all of it, and it's got this fantastic tonal shaping capability thanks to the two EQ controls and the mid and clean boosts. And again, because of that drive control, you're adding saturation, you're adding compression as well. It's just a pleasure to play through and really well made. Sounds great, and it's very, very affordable as well. So I highly recommend you check this range of pedals out. I've got 3 other demos going up on my YouTube channel you can check out for the other pedals in the range. So we've got the Monolith Distortion, we've got the Secret Path Overdrive, and we've got the Spiral Array Chorus pedal as well, which you can check out. All very affordable, very high end, all built in the UK. Superb. So if you enjoyed this demo, as usual guys, make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons below, hit the bell notification icon to make sure you never miss any more content. My name's Tom Quayle, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.